Morning, fellow Toastmasters, and no guests today. Summer days, definitely a little tough in the summertime. In regards to everybody's super busy, so I appreciate you guys all attending today. First order of business, our Toastmaster meeting today is our inspiration. Katie Orr, do you have some words of inspiration for us today?
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you for this topic today. As a former teacher or maybe lifelong teacher, learner, I appreciate your theme. As we celebrate our teachers, let's take a moment to lift up our kids' teachers, our grandchild's teachers, maybe our algebra teaching sister or the neighbor next door who coaches soccer. Will you bow your head and join me? Grant our teachers an abundance of wisdom. Prepare their hearts to welcome and love our loved ones. May we be sure to show them love and respect in return. Give them grace as they help students who are thriving and are not thriving. Courage to say what needs to be said. Tools and knowledge of how and when to speak love, and strength when they feel weak. When they feel unseen, remind them that no moment goes unnoticed. They are shaping the future in a million small, yet incredibly important ways every day. We are overwhelmed with gratitude for the gift of learning they share with our children. May they see just a glimpse of how their faithfulness will forever impact generations to come. Amen, or thank you.
Thanks, Kate. And our pledge allegiance. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. I'm sorry, I said it. You know, that's what we did at school.
Beth was going back to her old teacher mode. That's awesome. Spontaneous comedy. Once a teacher, always a teacher, right, Beth? Yep. Teachers can be inspiring. Teachers can be mentors. Definitely can be role models. You remember the really good teachers in your lives, and you remember the real bad teachers in your life. Me being a professor, I also remember the really good students and also the very bad students. That could be a topic for another meeting. Definitely have material there. I remember in 6th grade, my teacher, Mrs. Lee, she started the first class, and I think she did this every year. She says, "I am the white witch." So she tells us, and she goes on to tell a little speech about how she's a white witch for a couple minutes. We're all there, sitting there, 6th graders, looking at each other like, what the heck is going on? We have a witch for a teacher. This is not good. Or is it? I don't know. It's a white witch, right? So in the end, it ended up being a very positive experience. One of my favorite teachers, excellent teacher, but she just got us our attention. That's for darn sure in the beginning. I remember a chemistry teacher I had, Mrs. Carter was her name. She would hear the plumbing making noises and she would talk to the plumbing. And it had a name. It was a ghost, apparently. So again, all of us just kind of looked at each other like, what the heck is going on? Is she losing her mind? So today, if you would like to share stories of your favorite or favorite teachers as you do your roles or even at table topics, there'll probably be a few people in table topics that will probably want to share that as well. Marty, did you want to do a speech today? You messaged me. Did you want to do a speech today?
I have something.
Okay, yeah, if you wanted to. You don't have to, but.
Do you want to give the evaluation form?
It would be to Phil Russell, but at this point, I don't know if he's signed in or not. So let's, I'm not sure. So he's on, okay. We can figure it out. Well, thank you for stepping up, and thank you everybody for stepping up today. It's a summer day, and definitely everybody's all over the place in regards to roles and vacations and different things. So in the room, we have Nancy Rose, Dave Licata, Jackie Kenny, Sylvia Baptiste, Joe Budnack, Nancy Ferry, Beth Banks, Tom Heldwine, Len Thornton, Marty Johnston, Tracy Farrell, and our guest, Bella. Bella is back again for another, we didn't scare her off, so that's good. She's back for some more learning and entertainment today. And online, I know we also have Margot, Jen, Phil, Dave, Katie, and I think that's it. Is that correct one? Did I miss anybody? Eric, thank you. Since Marty stepped up to be a speaker today, I'm going to take his role as word master, if that's okay with you, Marty. My students do a word of the week, so I stole their word of the week. The word of the day is kerfuffle. It is a commotion, chaos. Apparently they are feeling things are a little chaotic in their lives. Not sure why. Summertime, right? Things going left and right. So I'll keep track of the word of the day, try to use that in all your speeches and table topics today. Our next role holder is Tracy Farrell. You're our master today. Would you like to tell us your job today?
You. So as master, I'll be counting the ahs, ums, so's, pregnant pauses, and I will be assisted by Bella.
Good to have an assist. Sometimes you aren't quite awake in the morning, so I'm sure she appreciates that. Dave Licata is our grammarian. Can you tell us your duties today, Dave?
It's the duty of the grammarian to protect the Queen's English. And the best way to learn something is by teaching it. Did you know that? So when I'm grammarian, it helps me with my grammar because I'm up here self-monitoring right now like you wouldn't believe that I want to leave a kerfuffle of a grammarian mistake right here on the lectern. Now, in tribute to my fellow charter member Edna, who discovered that so's were driving her crazy, I have a new challenge. Lately, I've been noticing people don't say to anymore. I'm going to the store. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to the store. So watch out for that TA instead of to today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Interesting observation. Love those kind of observations. Our quote master today and ready to go is Nancy Ferry.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I have 2 quotes today. They're short and sweet. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. William Butler Yeats. And this I found, I don't know who Brookhampton is, but it's handwritten. Speak to your children as they are the wisest, as if they are the wisest, kindest, most beautiful and magical human beings on the earth. For what they believe in is what they will become. And I believe that's for all of us, not just children, but certainly helps when you start as a child. And I think our goal as teachers in this world is not to put people in a kerfuffle.
2 for 2 role holders. See if we can keep that streak going. Our jester today, hopefully he has a very entertaining joke. Tom Heldwine.
Well, they say truth is the funniest thing, or at least there's some truth in the funniest jokes. So I thought about the fact that all of us have been students. So we've all had teachers. We've all had a favorite teacher. And mine was named Miss Hart. I was in love with her. And I remember she was also the first one to break my heart. I gave her a Valentine's when I was in like second grade, and it said, "Would you like to hang out sometime?" And she told me that was inappropriate. And so that was a little bit saddening. I was also a altar boy, and that's one reason why I'm a little jealous of today's kids, because it took me till that time to be exposed to something I shouldn't have been exposed to. I guess the Roman Catholic Church was a little bit ahead of its time as far as that goes. But now we have, preschool to fifth grade teachers doing that kind of stuff. So that's really something I wish I had had a little bit more opportunity to be exposed to. But the worst teachers, I think, are the ones that live in our memory. I remember this one teacher. I thought he was the worst teacher ever. He came in, handed you a pile of papers, and made you just the ones where you read the paragraph about a praying mantis and then you answer some questions about it or whatever. No idea. He wasn't like an undercover college person making the SAT tests, where and he was literally feeding these to like fourth graders and having us answer them so that the SAT test could be done quite equally. And I don't know if you had any bad experiences. I'd like to hear those as well. The last thing I wanted to talk about, well, no, you know what? I'll leave it for a speech because it's probably a better subject for a speech. But thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Sometimes people tell an interesting story for the jest as well, so it doesn't always have to be a straight up joke. That's right. Our timer is Nancy Rose. Can you tell us your timing duties today, Nancy?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmaster and guests. Today I'll be the timer, and I'm going to help the speakers with their time management so I can help guide them to a cohesive, effective, and efficient speech. I'll be using the light, and I'm in a little kerfuffle because I didn't know how to do this, but Dave Licata is going to help me. So, so he'll help me even that out. Anyway, we're going to start with table topics, and that will be a 2-minute timed discussion. I'll be using the green light at 1 minute, the yellow light at 1.5 minutes, and the red light at 2 minutes with a 30-second buffer on either side. Is that correct?
No.
I heard no too, so
Feel free to edit.
table topics, 1 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer. Green light at 1.5, yellow at 1:45, and red at 2 minutes. I'm sorry, I used the template from the National Toastmasters last night, and now I have the timer's report. So I'll make this correction. So the speeches are basically going to be about 5 to 7 minutes. And I have to look at this. The green light at 5 minutes, the yellow at 6, the red at 7 minutes with a 30-second buffer. Evaluation is going to be between 2 to 3 minutes with a 30-second buffer on either side. The green light at 2 minutes, the yellow light at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the red light at 3 minutes. Correct?
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Still in that kerfuffle.
See, this is an interesting point here. This has happened to me before. Now, Nancy almost took all my paperwork with her. So I've been in meetings and things like that I was running in front of a couple hundred people, and that has happened to me. So try not to do that. Try to bring it with you, I guess, as a point. I almost got caught again in a kerfuffle. Thank you, Nancy, for your setting the timing parameters, and Dave is going to assist you, so you'll be good to go. Our tech and gesture master today is Beth Banks. Come on down, Beth. Round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My job today is reporting on the use of technology, audio and visual, plus body language, facial expressions, gestures throughout the meeting. Before I go on, there is a teacher I had who I wanted to just say a few things about. I okayed it with Gerald first. I had a professor in college. When I went back for my master's, I had not been in classroom in 19 years. That was a long time. I was scared to death. I ended up with an advisor named Jerry Rising. I also took my first class from him. I was nervous the entire time. I don't think I knew what I was doing most of that class, but he was so patient and so kind. He was one of the most brilliant men I've ever met. He had a degree in English. He had a degree in math. He began the gifted math program at University of Buffalo. He was also an amazing bird watcher. The last class I had with him was quite the kerfuffle because he didn't show up. That was not like Jerry Rising. It turns out he had had a detached retina and was not able to do anything more for us that semester. Whatever we had at that point was our grade. I was so lucky that I didn't have to take an exam from him. We went many years. We read his articles in the Buffalo paper because he wrote the Audubon articles for many, many years. It stopped a number of years ago, and we thought, well, he must have passed away. They didn't say anything about it. The other day, while I was at Kipo, I read an article in the Spree magazine from a year ago about Jerry Rising, and it gave his email address. He's still affiliated with University of Buffalo. I wrote to him. He wrote me back, wanted to know if my husband would like any of the nature books he's getting rid of because he is moving into an apartment. Once a teacher, always a teacher. Thank you, Jerry.
That's awesome. Love that stuff. Our next role holder today is Sylvia Baptiste. Can you tell us your role today to help us improve? Round of applause, please.
Today, I get to be the teacher. At the end of the meeting, I'm going to quiz everyone on their listening skills. And I already started a couple questions here and there. So there you go, Mr. Toastmaster.
The quiz will be long and detailed. So pay attention. Before I do table topics, I would like to do a toast. Because we're Toastmasters, so we should do these toasts, right? Your former students wish you well to all teachers. Demands you made and the standards you set have helped make us what we are today. Here, here. Jackie Kenny, are you ready to do table topics for us today? We are missing one evaluator though, so I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer to bail out at the last second.
So we have 2 speakers?
I have 3 speakers. Yes, so you can do our normal 3. Does anybody want to volunteer to be an evaluator? Margot? Tom will be an evaluator. We'll sort that all out after table topics. So thank you, Jackie.
Good morning, everyone. So we are here to talk about teachers. And I think we have all had memorable teachers in our past life. I know I have. I know my multiplication tables because
This wicked little nun used to crack you over the knuckles if you couldn't recite them perfectly. I was scared to death of her. I think probably, who have we got that we could talk to this morning? I bet Margot has an interesting story about a memorable teacher in her life. And she can certainly use the word kerfuffle. Margot.
Good morning, everyone. And yes, I could use the word kerfuffle this morning. So a memorable teacher in my life. I took a few languages in high school. I took French starting in 7th grade. I took Hebrew starting in 4th grade, but I was dating a young man in freshman year who convinced me to take Russian. The Russian teacher was a man by the name of Господин Bushalov, Mr. Bushalov. Mr. Bushalov had a very interesting way of teaching. The Russian word for flying is lechet. Do you know why I remember that? Because Mr. Bushalov would wave his arms like he was a bird and jump up on a desk and demonstrate lechet. And he would go through the different verbs, the different congregations, and he was probably a frustrated actor. That was in contrast to my French teacher, Madame Davin, who did not move during class. We will be elegant. She was always straight and narrow and did not move from behind her desk the entire time she taught. And she was one of those teachers who really didn't make eye contact. She sort of did this. So those were two of my memorable French teachers or language teachers. My Hebrew teacher, on the other hand, was from Israel, and she was just a very active, very dynamic woman who loved to all of a sudden break into song in the middle of class. So those are my experiences with my language teachers. And I guess it wasn't too much of a kerfuffle. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Margot. Many of us learn lessons all through our life from the people who come before us, whether it's a mentor, a parent, a sibling. I think probably we would like to hear from Bella this morning. She knew she was going to be called on. She's going to tell us a little bit about someone in her life who was a mentor, a teacher, someone that she modeled and looked up to. Kerfuffle or no, Bella?
Okay. A teacher, yeah, I did it. I didn't say so, but now it's so. All right. So a teacher that I had that I would say was a mentor would be last year's English teacher, Mr. Gonzalez, because he was extremely funny. And he had this saying, adapt or die. And I think that's actually kind of a valuable lesson because he would write it in chalk on the board and he would go, today's lesson, every day's lesson, adapt or die. It is a dog eat dog world out there, guys. You need to focus. And he hated our class. We were the worst class that he had. We would just talk the whole time. He was miserable in our class. So I feel confident that we may have given his lesson back to him a little bit. And I think that he kind of enjoyed that. But he was a really smart teacher. And I really admire the fact that he made us do The Great Gatsby for 6 months of school, which is most of school, by the way. You know, I don't know how much you can get from that much classic literature of the same book, but you know what? You know, I got my thesis out of it. The 7 Deadly Sins is the Great Gatsby characters, and I got an 100 on that. So I guess it did something. But, oh, right.
That is a kerfuffle that I didn't say kerfuffle. Does that count? There we go. That's the kerfuffle, guys. But he would probably really like the words of the day. He was really nice, though. I was a part of the school newspaper, which he run. We did one meeting that was actually beneficial. Oh, perfect. Thanks, guys.
One of my favorite life lessons was learning to read. I cannot imagine what my life would have been like if I had never learned to read, if I had never had the opportunity to sit in the big willow tree next to the creek and spend time in Never Never Land or some other foreign country learning all kinds of lessons. I think probably Jen. Does Jen have a job this morning? She does? Okay. All right. Jen has a job. Eric. Eric is always reliable and he can tell us a lesson that he learned in his life that he's very grateful for. Eric.
Thank you, Madam Master, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest. One of the lessons I learned in life is take it slow. I had so many teaching moments of my life through my family, at the teachers, and during this pandemic with my poetry reading, I learned more on reading and learning the material and just knowing what these words mean and go along with my life. It's sort of a kerfuffle in that sort of way, but in all retrospect, I think that my teachers who taught me so much, I've learned that I can make a difference in people's lives, which I already do now, and still continue to do that. And I want to pass that teaching moment to my nieces, so they know that they can do whatever they want and learn from their mistakes, and hopefully that they can pass that along to their families. Now, with my disability, I've learned that it's okay to try harder, but I also learned I don't want to push myself over the limit that will make me stress. So I learned so much from this club, family, friends, the whole 9 yards. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you. All right, can we have a timer's report, please, Madam Timer? All qualified. And we need a word master's report as well. All qualified. So you can cast your ballot for Eric, Bella, or Margot. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jackie. That was fun. Some more teacher stories. In college, I had teachers that could barely speak English at all. And I was trying to learn calculus from them. That was hard. So I ended up being a self-taught student that semester. Not their own fault. I'm sure they were experts in the field. I just couldn't understand what they were saying. I had a professor who was fully tenured. I was talking about this at breakfast, which is how I got the topic, by the way. Tom's Diner, motivational and inspirational to develop topics for Toastmasters. Who knew? So this professor, he's tenured, and he did a terrible job of teaching. Half the time he showed up 15 minutes late, all over the place, kerfuffle left and right. And this guy at the end had the gall to try to bribe us with pizza to get a positive evaluation. boy, did I lit into him. And most people that know me know I don't get too angry about very many things, but I was like, this is right in your face, and I will not stand for this. I probably wrote a whole page in his eval of things that he needed to improve. Sadly, he was tenured and probably would do none of those things. But in the end, it is interesting. We all have those kind of professors, I think, and teachers. I would like to introduce our general evaluator before I forget it for a second time. Jen, would you like to tell your role for everybody today?
Good morning, everyone. I will be the general evaluator today. So I will be evaluating the evaluators and the Toastmaster and the overall tone of the meeting. And I'm hoping that we will have no kerfuffles today. The meeting will run smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our first evaluator, Mike Licata is not here. Tom Heldwine has stepped up, and he's going to give an evaluation to David Jones today, who also was a volunteer. So he will talk a little bit about the title and probably the timing parameters and what he'll look for in general in the speech, I would say.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Marty. Okay, thank you. That was like dead silence. All right, to make up for it, I think that was because I failed as jester. I had looked up the 3 funniest jokes I could possibly find last night. I had them on my phone, and then this morning I must have swiped and I lost all of them, and I was just so like, what? And then I had to come up here, and I'm sorry, I should have wrote them down. Lesson: don't read them off your phone, write them down, because that was a horrible, horrible thing. And you called, and I walked up here, and I was just like, I have no jokes.
Good teaching lesson.
So good teaching lesson. Yes, exactly. So that explains that. The first speaker today is Dave Jones. He's going to be talking to us from his awesome studio, and he's going to be speaking for 5 to 7 minutes. This timer. And the title of his speech is Rocky Road Trip. I'm going to go ahead and just introduce him. Okay, Dave Jones. Over to Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Evaluator, and good morning, fellow Toastmasters. My grandson's name is Rocky. And yes, my son-in-law is Italian, and he's from Buffalo, New York. And when this story happened, Rocky was 6 years old. He's now 8. And at the time, they lived down in Mississippi. Now, you see, my son-in-law is a college football coach. They move around a lot. And at that time, he was defensive coordinator at Southern Miss University. And it was the summer, and I was in Hattiesburg visiting and spending time with my family. And Rocky's aunt and uncle on his father's side called, and they wanted to see if Rocky could come spend a week with them in Tennessee. Well, since I was driving, we made an arrangement that I would drive him just north of Atlanta, Georgia. They'd meet and take him back to his house, and I'd head on home to Charlotte. And it was the morning of the road trip, and his mother, my daughter, had charged up his iPad, put movies on there. He had a bag of snacks and candy next to him, and a couple of juice boxes and the cup holders. Rocky sat behind me so that I could nicely talk to him if needed. And we headed down the road. And about 30 minutes into the trip, out of the back seat, Rocky goes, G. G is my grandfather name, G for grandpa, or what up, G? And he said, G, I gotta pee. Now, I didn't get mad. I anticipated it. What 6-year-old does not have to pee 30 minutes into a road trip? So I pulled into the rest stop, and Rocky went into the bathroom, and 15 seconds later, he came out, and he's like, I'm done. I'm like, Rocky, you did not go to the bathroom that quickly. He goes, no, I'm done. I don't care. We get in the car, head down the road. A couple hours later, out of the back seat, Gee, I gotta pee. I thought about it for a minute. I said, well, Rocky, can you wait about 30 minutes? We can get gas, we can get lunch, and we can let you go to the bathroom. He's like, yeah, sure. I was like, of course he didn't have to go to the bathroom anyway, so of course he's gonna wait. I pull in and I fill up the gas tank, take Rocky in the building. He goes into the bathroom. 15 seconds later, he comes back out. I'm like, Rocky, you did not go to the bathroom. He's like, I did, G, I'm good. I don't care. I was like, what do you want for lunch? Do you want a ham sandwich? You want a turkey sandwich? Like, no, I'm not hungry. I don't want anything. Rocky, you have to eat. Do you want to split a sub? What do you want? He goes, no, I've got Skittles in the back seat of the car. I'm just going to have those for lunch. Now, as a grandfather, I'm fine with that. That's our job. Let them eat candy. Let them have fun. Let them do what they want. The problem is, any moment now, his daughter or his mother, my daughter, is going to call and she's going to want to know what Rocky had for lunch. So I decided I'm going to try one more time. It's like, Rocky, why don't you get a sub? I'll get you some potato chips and a Coke. Just don't tell your mom, because mom doesn't let him drink soda. It's like, no, I just want to have my Skittles. I don't care. What am I going to do? Argue with a 6-year-old in the middle of Subway? That's not my job as a grandfather. That's his parents' job. So I get my sub and we head on down the road. We eventually make it into Atlanta. Now, if you've ever driven through Atlanta, you know there's 2 ways to get through Atlanta, either 5 miles an hour or 80 miles an hour. This particular day was 80 miles an hour. I had my fast pass device. I'm in the left lane and we're moving out. We're about 15 minutes from my destination. At the back seat, Rocky goes, gee, I got to throw up. Like, you mean you got to pee? No, G, I got to throw up. I'm like, Rocky, we're 15 minutes from your aunt and uncle. Can you please throw up with them? It's like, no, I got to do it now. I'm in the fast lane, concrete walls on either side. We're going, there's no exit, and we're moving out. And I'm like, Rocky, can you at least wait for the next exit? He's like, yeah, ugh. All over the back seat, he throws up. It was quite the kerfuffle. It starts to smell. I roll down the windows. We're going. There's an exit. I start to pull off the exit. I'm like, Rocky, we're almost there. He goes, okay, great. Ugh. Round 2, all over the back seat. I look back. There's a rainbow colored skittle of puke everywhere and anywhere, except for on Rocky. He was perfectly clean, not a drop on him, but everywhere else. I pull into the gas station. For the first time ever, there were paper towels in the thing that comes down outside. So I have my wipies and paper towels. Rocky's outside laughing. He thinks it's hysterical. And I'm cleaning everything out. I finally get finished, except for the last thing. It's the fold down armrest with 2 cup holders. They're both filled to the top with puke. You can't pull them out. You have to get paper towels and soak it out and soak it out. And eventually everything's clean. We head down the road and we go to the destination where we meet with his aunt and uncle. They're like, do you want to have lunch? I'm like, no, I'm out of here. I give him Rocky. I take off. I head home to Charlotte. I finally have some peace and quiet until I get a phone call. It's my daughter. It's like, hey, how's it going? It's like, fine. I just dropped off Rocky. Everything's good. He did have a little tummy ache, maybe car sickness. He threw up a little bit, but it's fine. Really? What did he have for lunch? He had a sandwich. What? You know how many times she lied to me as a teenager? Payback. She's like, did he watch his iPad? I was like, he did. He watched it the whole time. He had fun. He was laughing. I told you not to let him watch the iPad. It gets peripheral vision. He gets dizzy. He gets sick. He throws up. I don't remember that conversation, but he'll never watch an iPad in my car again. She's like, I know. I just talked to him and he said you gave him candy for lunch. Rocky sold me out, Mr. Toastmaster.
And they do that. I will confirm. Grandkids will sell you out. Be careful. And your kids as well. Our second evaluator today is Joe Budnack. Joe, could you come on down? And I don't know if you've conferred with Len or not, but I do have his title. Okay, just tell us in general what you would look for in a speech. And if you want, the title's right. Yeah, it's right here. So you just look at it.
Oh, here we go. Okay. So it is the expression 5 to 7 minutes. So best of luck to you, Leonard. I know you'll do well. Thank you. Okay.
I blame it all on summer. Kerfuffle, kerfuffle, kerfuffle. His title's Expressions, 5 to 7 minutes. And I'm sure Joe will look for everything he normally looks for in an evaluation that we do at Toastmasters. Len, if you could come up and do your speech today, present for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I threw together a speech today. It wouldn't have been my choice to speak today. I was duty bound because I was the alternate speaker. And I chose for my subject expressions. What does Toastmasters do but teach us how to express ourselves? I recently completed my biggest project of the year, which is chairing an all-star high school football game. This is the program. And that was last Friday. But it's not just a game. It takes months of planning and hundreds of details. There's a players banquet the night before where I spoke for about 10 minutes to a room of 180 people. And then the game was at Buff State, a new venue for us this year, about 1,500 fans in attendance. And I never once thought or had any hesitation about speaking or doing a TV interview or presenting myself, because I have the confidence that can only come with decades of being a Toastmaster. For some, it takes a lot less time. There was zero preparation for either of those, which was good because I didn't have a whole lot of time. But I think to myself, I've used Toastmasters skills in so many aspects of my life. Now, I always try to support friends of mine who write books. And yes, of course, I ordered How to Do Life Without the Wife by our first speaker today. I think I can relate to that. But I've purchased books by half a dozen of my friends who have taken the time to compile their story and publish it. And it's easier than ever to publish today. I particularly enjoyed Elvis is in the Scrum Down by former member John Lang. That was a great book. Anybody who wants to borrow it, I have it available. I purchased books from friends in the past. The one who wrote a book about a cloud formation, he saw, which to him was a spiritual message. He saw a vision in those clouds in Niagara Falls that spoke to him. Another friend of mine wrote a book on fundraising. That's his vocation. And a few others I can't remember right now. But any artist as well, local artists, I try and support. I saw Tom Kiefer, a longtime friend of mine and local musician from Wilson, playing at the Gazebo in Newfane last night. Of course I'm going to buy his latest CD. Can I play it on Spotify for free? Yes. But we support local musicians. Other local bands I like, that I buy all their CDs, whatever they put out. PA Line, Mick Hayes, Savannah King from Wilson. Even back in the day, just after high school, when I would go out and see bands all the time with my friends, Paul Pope, I think he was out of Cleveland, Tallis, Rusted Root out of Pittsburgh. And an assistant of mine was actually a drummer in a band. His band's name was Scary Chicken. And they were good. They were very good. Now I know somewhere down the line, my story will be told. I've always loved reading biographies autobiographies rather than biographies, because to hear it in a person's words, how they interpret their life, their experiences, is second to none. Obviously, I've read Ben Franklin biographies and and a lot of the great inventors, people who made a difference on our day-to-day lives here. If I were to write it now, it would be a total kerfuffle, because I haven't really been taking notes. They're up here. And I know the benefits of journaling, and that's something I'm going to start very soon. To have an outline, to have notes before you tackle a project like that, to me would seem absolutely invaluable. So stay tuned. My life with Toastmasters, my career, my family, all the things that made me who I am today will be told someday. And it will be on the learning of friends of mine who have written books, journaling, so I have notes. And what I'm told is the most important thing in writing a book, a really good editor, Mr. Toastmaster.
Editing is an art form. I'm trying to improve on that myself. Our third speaker today is Marty Johnson, stepping up. We appreciate for sure. He already sent his information over to Phil Russell, who will hopefully receive it. We'll talk about his speech today. Phil.
Mr. Toastmaster, before I get started here, I have to mention two teachers. That's you, two teachers in my life. The first one, she had the biggest kerfuffle ever. Her first job, all boys, English, sophomores, scared to death. Well, let me tell you something, the boys were scared because we all have mothers. This mother had 9 children, so she had to be tough. So we were scared, but stupid scared. That happened to be the mother-in-law of Beth Banks, Mrs. Grace Banks, and the grandmother of Katie. Wonderful lady. Now, the second teacher, there was no kerfuffle at all. He got to the point directly. He taught health and safety. He walked into the room, threw the window open. Fresh air, that's health. Keep your mouth shut, that's safety.
Love it.
We believed him, Mr. Dugan. Now, Marty Johnston, he has a 3 to 4 minute speech. I did receive it. I have it up in my computer in front of me, so I'm going to have to try and read it here. The purpose of this project is for the member to practice delivering social speeches in front of club members. The member completing the project has spent time preparing a social speech. Now, we're going to listen for a well-organized, well-delivered speech with appropriate content for the type of social speech you may be I may be evaluating one of the following types of social speeches. And that social speech today by Marty is a eulogy. Mr. Toastmaster, do you have the title?
I do not, no.
The title of it, the eulogy, Our Faithful Mother, Martin Johnston.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning. My name is Martin James Johnston. I'd like to thank Father Walter Cesny for allowing me to speak today on behalf of my family as we're here to celebrate my mother's faith life. This morning, I'd like to talk about 3 main aspects of my mother's faith. She was born and raised Catholic in Buffalo, New York. She had a wonderful volunteer spirit, and she loved her family and friends. I'm going to start off with where she was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. Speaking with my aunt the other day, who's a sister of St. Mary Namor, I learned that being raised in Buffalo,
my aunt said, your mother probably attended every church in Buffalo at one point in her childhood. Being German Catholic, I have no doubt that that's true. My mother moved from Buffalo as a young girl, and they moved, of all places, on Ewing's Road next to St. Bridget's Church, which is now called St. Brendan's Church. And I learned that my mother definitely learned her faith from her German mother and father. And one story I heard, my mother was roused up, and I'm sure there was a kerfuffle because at 6 o'clock in the morning on First Friday during Lent, my grandfather and grandmother rousted up all the children, and they went to church at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then they went to school after that. Can you imagine that? I'm sure there was quite the kerfuffle. My mother learned her Catholic faith from her parents, and she taught that Catholic faith to my siblings. When she met my father, they raised 5 children. And over the course of our schooling, which accumulated 60 years of Catholic education, culminating with 5 graduates from DeSales Catholic High School. My mother definitely learned her Catholic faith. And the second main aspect of my mom's faith life, she was a faithful volunteer. She was probably at every bingo game and on every bingo team that DeSales had while her 5 children were at school. She served on many different bingo committees, I'm sure. She was also volunteered here for the YWCA for many years. I remember my mom telling me a beautiful story how she helped outfit a young girl who was going for a job interview and from the clothes closet that they had here at the Y years ago. So my mom was definitely a faithful volunteer and loved volunteering. She had a great volunteer spirit. The third aspect I'd like to share about my mom's faith life, that she loved her family and friends. She showed her love by listening to family members and friends and would always try to solve their problem after she listened to what was going on. She loved cooking. She made the best Texas sheet cake that you can imagine. A big, thick brownie Texas sheet cake with walnuts. It was delicious. She showed her love of family and friends by cooking, by sewing, making outfits for her children and many of her grandchildren. I hope that you find some inspiration from my words this morning about my mother, Virginia. Mom, may God hold you in the palm of his hand until we meet again. May he hold you in the palm of his hand. With a little German, I'd like to close and say, Moj Gotch Ditch in seiner Hand halten, meaning may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you for having me this morning, Father Walter. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marty. That was great. God bless you for doing that. And on behalf of the club, prayers and condolences in your time of sadness and difficulty. So let's talk a little more about teachers. Sometimes it's the teachers you remember that do interesting things. Okay. So teachers, my one daughter had a teacher who literally did cartwheels down the hallway. Like, oh wow, you're gonna remember this guy the rest of your life. I had a teacher in Cairo school, Dr. Good, who challenged everybody, all comers, to a racquetball tournament. And he's 40, so we got some 22, 23-year-olds are like, oh, I can take this guy for a bottle of wine, a good bottle of wine. Nobody ever beat him. One guy got 6 points. And these are some good athletes we're talking about. He had 6, the rest of them got skunked. He was that good. So I always remember that. Okay. Let's get a timers report, Madam Timer.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Okay, so for the formal speeches, David Jones came in at 6:45, right on the dot. Len came in at 5:45. They both qualify. They both used the words. Marty came in at 4:38. According to your custom speech, you did not qualify, but you did use the word. Thank you very much.
I don't have to do a word master's report, but I would like to say he was doing amazing today. Every single person used the word kerfuffle. And I'll do another report later. I'm just so impressed by that. Our evaluator number 1, Tom, are you ready to do your evaluation?
All right, so Jay Jones talked about Rocky Road Trip. First thing is the title, Rocky Road Trip. 2 meanings. The child's name was Rocky, his grandson. And Rocky was how I would describe that trip. So wonderful title that has a dual meaning. I've seen that quite a few times. I've tried to imitate that myself, and I find that very useful. I can't believe this is his first time giving this speech. He had to have practiced and practiced, as Mo has said before to us so many times over the years. He practiced, practiced, practiced. It is so clear that he had practiced this. If he didn't, I have no words. He has his devoted studio. So tech-wise, that was an incredible presentation via the Teams, or not Teams, we're actually doing Zoom. He was very clear. So even though I didn't see a mic, he has to have a mic there somewhere. And it has to be incredibly quiet. It's because the mic wasn't near his face. So it was picking up all the room noise. So there was no ambient room noise. So I thought that was good. A good story always has 2 elements that are essential. Are good characters and story development. Well, he talked about G. Well, that's him. And then he introduced Rocky. And he really cemented their relationship and their personalities with different voices. And then the story development, the second part, has a beginning, introducing the characters, getting things set up, a middle leading up, and an end. End felt a little bit rushed. If I would work on any part of the speech, that would probably be where I would work on it. It seemed a little rushed and a little bit cut. There were 2 spots, at least in the story, where I thought a dramatic pause would have really helped. And the last negative would be, their improvement, I should say, I noticed was that maybe there was a little bit too much detail as far as the puke cleanup. I think that maybe that could be curtailed a little bit to add more to the end of the story. The fallout after, that would be the last improvement I have. Your hand gestures were really good. Throughout the speech, you'd point at things and then you'd say you're getting in the left lane, that there were barriers. That was very straightforward. Hey, pick a sandwich. I mean, that seemed very natural. They weren't forced or thrown in the speech. They probably were not planned. They just something that you do, which is great, being able to talk with your hands. I end up usually keeping my hands at my sides, military training, but I do try and use them now and then. And a prop. I love props, and that was one of the best props ever. A gigantic phone. That this speech went from humor to slapstick to just prop comedy. I was just amazed at all the different modes of humor that were used. You did at last throw the word kerfuffle into the day. Now, I don't know if I get credit for commenting that you used kerfuffle, but I have not used it, and I think it's a great word. Thank you, my fellow Toastmasters, Dave Jones, for a wonderful speech, and our Toastmaster for today.
If you have not already, please write some comments for our speakers. When Sylvia goes around to get the evaluator votes, you can throw those in there and she'll deliver to the speakers. We like to call them love notes or pointers for improvement. Our second evaluator, Joe, are you ready? All right, come on down, Joe, and get an evaluation for us for Len.
I want to thank you, Len, for a truly inspirational speech that you gave us this morning. One thing that I particularly enjoyed about it is all the valuable lessons that you've talked about that you've learned from Toastmasters and how basically you use it in many aspects of life. I can relate because I have learned a lot of valuable lessons from Toastmasters and skills which I use when I'm basically teaching in school and working with kids. So your gestures were very good. Your confidence shown through. Being a seasoned Toastmaster, it basically showed. I also like your use of visual aids as well. I also like books. I'm a readaholic. I love to read. So that was another aspect of your speech I truly enjoyed, was your love of books and love of bands too. And I actually knew Tom Kiefer years ago. I met him in 1986 and 1987. We were going to NCCC and we were both in the swing choir. And after all these years, I met up with him again and he remembered me, amazingly enough. So I also like to listen to the local bands too, as well, also. And also the importance of note-taking. That was another valuable lesson that you discussed in your speech, which helps me very much when I'm giving speeches or evaluations. If I could say that there was any room for improvement, sometimes you would look down and what was in front of you, and sometimes we kind of lost you a little bit, which is something I have to work on too. That's something I work on if I'm using notes. But all in all, very inspirational speech of a lot of valuable lessons that you brought us. And you say that you're going to write an autobiography. Well, I think that would be interesting. I would love to read your autobiography if you ever did read it, because I think, like your speech, it would be very inspirational. It would be very educational for the rest of us, especially all the lessons that you did learn from Toastmasters. And you said, you know, I have a lot of confidence that I could do these things, and your confidence shows. Very inspirational to the rest of us. Thank you, Len, for a great speech this morning.
Thank you, Joe, for providing words of improvement for our Toastmasters. The reason for our guests that we do evaluations is because everybody has something they can improve. Even veteran Toastmasters that have been doing it a long time. There's always room for improvement. Our third evaluator, speaking of veteran Toastmasters, is Phil Russell. Could you provide your evaluation today, Phil?
Yes. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our guest, and especially Marty. Nice opening, Marty. I liked it. I'll talk about the close, which I also thought was a good close. I like the idea that you knew your topic so well. You knew it because any man that's out there loses a mother, you're going to know that person. You were at ease, which sort of shocked me, but it grew into a great emotional speech as it moved on. I could tell the pride that you had, and then the emotion grew as you kept working on the speech. Your gestures were good. Now, this speech, you're only going to give once in your lifetime, you hope. And what happens is The suggestion I have is not for this speech, because you only do it once, but it's for future speeches on the notes. The notes, you had a time looking down. When you do future speeches, really blow up the notes that you're using so that you can see them and just glance down and look back up. That will help you in the future. As I said, in the close, your emotion grew to a crescendo. And this is one of the toughest speeches you'll probably have ever given. And we could tell the emotional effect on you. And that made it good. And that's why that opening and that close was so good and hit the point right on the, as they would say, the nail right on the head. Mr. Toastmaster.
Madam Timer, could you provide the times for all our evaluators as soon as Dave is done talking to you? Are we ready, Madam Timer? All right. Please welcome her up to the lectern, please. That's okay. Dave was teaching. Good job, Dave.
Okay, so we have Joe and I'm sorry, Phil. Trying to memorize everybody's whole names. So we have Joe and Phil qualifying, and Thomas, you did go over. Thank you very much.
Please take a moment to vote for your favorite evaluator. Other teachers that I've had a lot of teachers. I was 13 years of school, of college, plus all those years of high school and years before that. So many, many teaching examples. I had one teacher, Mr. Doman. He was a physics teacher. He had a substitute teacher that looked like his twin. So I wasn't sure who was there half the time if he took time off. So some of my fellow classmates could tell. So we named the original Doman, Doman Prime, and the substitute Doman, Doman Double Prime. It was a physics class. You gotta kind of roll with that. I had another teacher, Mr. Phil, and he used to walk around the class with a yardstick over his shoulders. And I don't know if this is, if I had a yardstick, I'd probably do this. And he'd kind of walk around, and be talking. And then if he caught a student who maybe was dozing off a little bit, it accidentally slipped out of his hand and it would smack right in front of him. So that would kind of keep the students on their toes, I'm going to say. In Chiral school, in the clinics, I had 3 teachers that were brutal. So you would come in to get some pointers, we'll say, and it was in a room with 3 different teachers, and they would beat you around like a ping pong ball. You don't know anything, you're just starting treating patients, and they just say, well, you don't know this and you don't know that. That is not a good example. That is not the way to do things. So you learn from the good and the bad. You emulate the good and you do not do what the bad do, right? So I try to do this as a professor myself. Every patient is a learning opportunity. So we have some students that don't want to do anything. So we have to motivate them a little bit. It's like, okay, I have all my requirements. I don't want to see any more patients. Imagine that. They haven't seen that many. They're just starting. They haven't been practicing 23 years like me. They need to learn some things. So that is what I tell them. Try to motivate them a little bit. And I will include pearls of wisdom as well. So from years and years of teaching, like all teachers should do, right? It's like, okay, I had this example. This is how you deal with this patient when they talk a lot or they don't talk at all, or manage patient management. All these little tricks that you, when you're dealing with people over the years, I bet Dave could give us lessons on dealing with people in sales for sure, and reading people and different things. So those things he could pass on. I'm sure, and has passed on to people that are under him over the years. At this point of the meeting, I would like to start introducing some roll holders if we are ready. And let's start off with our quiz master as she's walking around since she doesn't have to sit down. Surprise.
I'm gonna take a minute. I didn't talk about favorite teachers or good teachers, bad teachers. Earlier, my family, I should say, have many teachers, educators in their blood. I have one brother-in-law who is like a brother. I never had him as a teacher. He taught third grade in Niagara Falls at Cleveland Avenue School before it closed. And then he went into administration and he started the math lab program out in Niagara Falls. Very successful program. And I did attend summer school that he was ahead of this math lab because my math wasn't the best. And we played cribbage. Anyone ever play cribbage? The best math game ever. 15-2, 15-4, no. So we had a tournament and it was down to myself and another student. I can't think it was a boy, to tell you the truth. I can't remember exactly, but he beat me. And my brother-in-law said to me after, he said, there was no way of any way you played those cards, you were going to get any higher than you did. You played the game perfectly. So they'd always stuck in my head. I always had a great respect for him. Unfortunately, this past November, he passed away after being married to my sister. Would have been 53 years yesterday. So they were, like I said, he was a brother. But on a better note, what is our guest's name?
Bella.
Beautiful. Bella. Dr. Gerald Stevens' class each week has.
Word of the week.
That's right. What did David Licata notice? That people are not using the word, right, ta, they use a lot of ta. What language did Margot took in school? She was talking about the Russian stuck in my head. What did Bella's teacher always say?
Something about
Adapt or die, or it is the doggy dog's world. I caught that one. Eric's life lesson, I should say. I think he said, take it slow. David Jones' grandson's name.
Rocky.
And his son-in-law is from?
Buffalo, New York.
All right. Then I kind of started dozing off a little, not dozing, but not listening so intent to the speeches that I didn't write anything down except one question. Len's assistant's name? Carrie Chicken, right?
Oh, scary chicken?
Gary Chicken. There it is. All right. Thank you.
Very nice. Tech and Gesture Master Report. Beth, thanks. Welcome her down.
If we could just make that a little quieter. I'm not sure how. Yes, to do that. We had some great gestures today. Len was doing double duty, trying to make sure that the connection came back on after losing it at least twice, 3 times maybe. The only thing I would suggest is, I don't know if you could see it on your computer, but the little rectangle showing that we got to figure out a way to get rid of that a little quicker. Yeah. Of course, all the speeches, there were very good gestures. Marty, you're not a big gesture kind of person, but yours were very appropriate for the speech you were giving. It was a eulogy. You're not gonna be up at the lectern at church going, well, I don't think you're going to do that, go crazy, but very good and very appropriate. Len, I like your props. Of course, David Jones, you took it away with a phone. That was just amazing. I also love the voice changes that David did. He gave his grandson a different voice than his voice. And that always gets your attention, makes you really pay attention. So I really like that. I think that's about it. Our evaluators, all good gestures. So thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I think I'll have to maybe just leave it in a neutral position here. Have to think about that. Try to look ahead and see who needs it lowered. Our grammarian, Dave Licata, has words of wisdom for us today, I'm sure. I'm sure I need help on my grammar.
I'm going to lower it just a smidge. As I got older, hopefully I may have gotten a little bit wiser. And what I came to realize that we really should flip the 10 commandments. And at the top, like the Buddhist, at the top is, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. So I've done a lot of thinking and a lot of work on don't be jealous and don't covet. But I certainly am coveting the I Master today. You remember 2 weeks ago, I gave a speech called I Got Nothing? I got nothing. I didn't hear any grammatical errors, and you were real careful about the two. So we'll now segue into my favorite teacher. His name was William Kenny, Father Kenny. Naturally, we nicknamed him Wild Bill. Now, as you can guess, the sales was cut up into 4 different classes. Each class had Junior 1, smart guys, Junior 2, smart girls, Junior 3, me and my buddies, and then there was Junior 4, where the girls were on the same level as Junior 3. Wild Bill taught us economics. And the first thing he taught us, first thing he said was, boys, everything's economics. Now, I think he's 1,000% correct. But what he did, he knew that the other economics teacher teaching Senior 1, the real smart guys, the guys that would spend a half hour checking each other's scores after a test, and we just walk by laughing at them. There's a grammatical error. Laughing at them. He said, boys, you're going to beat Senior 1 on the Regents. We all stared at each other and said, has this man lost his mind? We are Junior 3. Is he crazy? At the end of the year, he reported that we did better on the Regents than Junior 1. Now, this was 56 years ago, and with a lot of thought. And when you retire, the ones that are not retired here, you'll find out you have a lot of time for introspection, and these little truths come to the surface when you have more time. You know, I think he was jiving us, but that's not important. That was the biggest boost I got in 4 years of academics at DeSales Catholic High, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dave. I would like to get a general evaluators report, if I could, from Jen.
Absolutely. I would love to evaluate the meeting today. I think the theme was very well met today. People seem to very much enjoy talking about their teachers. In fact, some of our role holders enjoyed it so much, they barely introduced their roles at all. So I would just caution everyone to make sure that you do also introduce your role, even if you do enjoy the topic. In general, I think the meeting went very well. There were a couple of technical issues where we lost the video of the lectern a couple of times. However, it came back on quickly and we had audio the whole time on Zoom. So that was great to keep the meeting moving. In general, for our evaluators today, I'd like to evaluate them. They all were able to give some improvements today, which I think was great. We had some strong speeches, some speeches that were more difficult to evaluate than normal, and they were all able to give some feedback. A couple of notes for them individually. Thomas, you had mentioned something about pauses for David, but you didn't say when those pauses could come, so I wasn't sure if that was clear to David, so hopefully we'll put that in your written evaluation. For Joe, make sure you do speak to the speaker ahead of time. It's your job as much as it is the speaker's job to get that information to you. So make sure that you are doing that. And one caution for you as well, when you are giving the positive feedback, you had some great positive feedback, but much of it was a reaction to Len's speech instead of the actual attributes of the speech that were strong. So I would just caution you to make sure that you're talking about the speech strengths rather than your personal reaction to those. Phil, I thought it was great that you were able to give Marty some improvement. That is a more difficult speech to evaluate. And I'd agreed with some of your feedback as well, that Marty's composure was stunning in his speech. So I thought that was a good comment for him. So overall, I think our evaluators did an excellent job today. Our Toastmaster was able to fill all of the roles, and I know he had quite a few extra roles to fill this week as we had some cancellations and whatnot, which was great. I believe that's all of the evaluation that I have today. So I will turn it back over to our Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Couple more reports. Tracy, I didn't forget about you, the owl master. I just wanted to make sure we got the general evaluator in there too.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Ahs and ums, we did fantastic. I only counted 5 ahs, 6 ums. The so's were in a bit of a kerfuffle. So please do not make Edna mad. We had over 40 so's. We also, oh gosh, David, I don't know where you were because there was quite a few so's. I also want everybody to keep track of the ands. We're using that as a connector word too. So thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Tracy. The word of the day did amazing today. I think every single person used it that spoke today. There was a couple that used it twice. Tom used it twice. Marty used it twice. So, quite an easy word to use today. We do have some winners for today's participants. The best table topics is Bella, 2-time winner. Come on down and get your ribbons. You will figure it all out. Good job. Our best evaluator online, Phil Russell. Excellent job today. And our best speaker is David Jones, also online. Good job, David. I'm not sure if we have a split club container. We could probably have Beth pick since she's helping bring it up here. I'll hold it. Yes, our assistant, hostess, yes. Hostess, yes. Okay. The number is 345438. Any winners? 438. It might be me today. I don't know. Can you check right there? Be my first time. I won the split club today. I will donate the proceeds back to the club. So if you can give them, Beth being the treasurer, she can just keep that. Next meeting. Eric Schneider volunteered to be Toastmaster. Do you have a theme, Eric?
I don't know, he's all still there.
He's all still. He's back.
I'm back. Sorry, I'm Eric. I'm just taking my break right now. Next week is volleyball. Get your feet dirty in the sand because we're going to play volleyball.
Hey,
So,
theme is volleyball. All your hijinks and different stories about volleyball. Do you like it or not? And your experiences playing. Speakers that are listed for Eric: Lester Robinson, Tracy Farrell, speaker next week. And I believe Jen Zappa also is speaker next week. And please make sure if you can't make your role to please let the Toastmaster know. And thank you everybody for stepping up. I appreciate that. There was,
Mikey was sick, I'm sorry.
yeah, he did message me. So thank you for that. Thank him for that. Any announcements today?
Gerald, I got one.
Hey, Eric, go ahead.
Shakespeare in the Park tomorrow night, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. What time will you guys be there, you think?
Oh, I get out of work at 2:30, so I'll pick a spot at about 3 o'clock because I'm still gonna be in Buffalo, so.
Yes, they did have a great spot last time when I went. It was under the tree. And I don't think there was a better spot there, truthfully. And it was a hot day. So they were there early, just chilling. It was a great time. So definitely go. Midnight Summer's Dream, is that correct? Is that the?
Midsummer's Night Dream, yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent comedy. And it's free. Bring a bottle of wine, a chair, and chill with some Toastmasters and other people that will come as well. Dave has something for us. Would you like to come up, Dave, or you just want?
Tomorrow night, now this is so minor. Tomorrow night is my 55th class reunion, so say a prayer for me.
Tomorrow night is Dave's 55th class reunion, so say a prayer for Dave. I don't know if you have any announcements. If not, I would like to leave the meeting off with a quote. So I might start doing this. I thought about this the other day. It was initially attributed when I looked at it to Josh Allen, but upon further research, it's actually Sugar Ray Robinson. It's interesting how these things get misplaced and misquoted. And I want you all to do this. To be a champion, you have to believe in yourself when no one else will. So be a champion, fellow Toastmasters. And have a great day.